The Northman came out at a very unfortunate time in cinema's history. The time where pretty much every single movie wasn't making its money back, and most of them were just banking on having really controversial documentaries made about them. Yeah, it was a pretty horrible time for cinema, I refuse to look back. But the Northman was planning on doing things a little differently, slating to be one of the biggest action blockbusters of all time, being set in the Viking period, having lots of action, bloody gore, and having an all-star cast, including Willem Dafoe. This was it! The movie the film industry really needed right now. People forgot about it as soon as it came out. Okay, I'm not gonna be a contrarian by saying that The Northman is a masterpiece. As a matter of opinion, on my most recent watch, the whole thing was really underwhelming to me. It does drag a ton, and as much as I love these characters are based on actual figures of Norse mythology, I can't remember a single one of their names outside of Amleth and Björk. To me, most of them are just named Chucko, Buster, Pete, Bob, and Dan. It also has to be said that so many of its big stars were majorly underutilized, like Willem Dafoe and Nicole Kidman's appearances barely added up to 5 minutes, but even with all that, I still kinda like this movie. I don't know, it's complicated. Hell, even with its shortcomings, there are a lot of inspired choices that strangely work in this movie's favor. The writer for this movie outside of Eggers himself is Icelandic poet Jean, the guy who wrote for Björk. That's an inspired choice because most of his idiosyncrasies pair perfectly with Eggers' more unconventional approaches to storytelling. Hell, he even managed to convince Björk herself to play the seeress prophet that warns Alexander Skarsgård for the film, even though she explicitly said that she was done with acting after the hell she went through for Dancer in the Dark. Also, fun fact, she was the only cast member in the entire movie who was allowed to wear her own wardrobe. Checks out.
You cannot escape what fate the Norns have spun. Now be gone!
Could have been worse. Alexander Skarsgård could have run into her in Bangkok. Hey, can't say she didn't keep her promise. As for what this movie is based on, well, Hamlet of course, you silly Billy. Because let's face it, even if you do put a creative spin on the story, it's still Hamlet. Like, there's a lot of movies based on Hamlet. Every movie's based on Hamlet. But it's more explicitly based on the writings of Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus, where the character of Amleth is based upon. I will also give horror movie director Robert Eggers credit. He did make a historical epic, but not just any historical epic, an utterly bonkers, action-packed gore fest of a historical epic. It's a very breathtaking movie that's very grand in scope, with a lot of sweeping shots that give its action a bit more flair. I mean, sure, there's a lot more nothing happening within these longer shots, but a lot of action movies tend to use intensity over tension with like 6 shots a second and the camera having an aneurysm, so you give it a little wiggle room. So yeah, despite its flaws, The Northman was pretty good. And it was the adrenaline rush 2022 really needed after a whole load of really lackluster blockbusters. Hell, I could probably go as far as to say that it's the only good movie of 2022. Except for Babylon. And Tar. And 3,000 Years of Longing. And Mad God, Bullet Train... Nope. Hell, even the last Jackass movie came out that year. Okay, maybe 2022 wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. Yeah, this is probably gonna be the only time I'm gonna... Everything Everywhere All at Once, that was also a really good one. Yeah, sorry, let's get back to it. Yeah, this is probably gonna be the only time I'm gonna rank a remake over a mythological epic starring Willem Dafoe. Even though this also stars Willem Dafoe. Oh, the virus is just getting closer. Nosferatu is a very loose reimagining of the 1922 F.W. Murnau flick, and was one of the few remakes that, from what I saw, people were actually kinda pumped for. It was being done by an already well-respected name in the horror community, and it had a lot of pretty awesome names at the helm, including the director of Harry Potter himself, Chris Columbus. Hell, at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled a Herbert West and resurrected the actual Christopher Columbus to produce this goddamn movie. Unsurprisingly, it was really good. It had all the traits of Eggers that we've come to know and love over the years. Accurate portrayals of the time period it's set in, really great acting, expert pacing, beautifully gothic cinematography and set design, unbelievably eerie yet weirdly horny tone. It's all there. Which might be the biggest problem I have with this movie. I mean, I love it. I would go as far as to say that it's one of the better horror remakes that we've gotten recently. But compared to his other projects, it doesn't really do much to stand out from the crowd, at least with the Northman, as much as it sticks out like a sore thumb in Eggers' filmography. I can say that it's at least different. At least I could say that it's a complete tonal shift compared to the more gothic horrors of The Witch and The Lighthouse. Here, it's very much a return to form, and that's pretty much it. Even with several standout scenes, like, of course Bill Skarsgård's performance as the titular Count Orlok. And yes, his name is Count Orlok, everybody. Don't listen to SpongeBob, his name is not Nosferatu, okay? But I don't know. I wanted it to be eerier. I wanted it to be hornier. And by God, at least try to sneak in the more surreal imagery of your other films, man. How is the movie with Edward from Twilight in it scarier than this? Bottom line, Nosferatu is Robert Eggers doing the typical Robert Eggers thing, and I do like it very much. It's just that I was expecting a lot more. Like, if you want to do a remake of arguably the most influential version of Bram Stoker's seminal Dracula novel, go all out. Just saying, if I wanted to watch a movie where a vampire Pennywise gives head to Lily Rose Depp, I want to feel it, you know?
Did you see my butt?
What is with Eggers and wanting to see Anya Taylor-Joy's boobs? I'm sorry, I know we haven't gotten to the movie yet, but knowing that she was only 18 when this movie was in production, I don't know, it just makes me feel, it's really uncomfortable to think about. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, The Witch! The Witch is great! Eggers' first feature-length film was not really what I was expecting as someone's first film, but that's exactly the reason why I love it so much. I told you all, give people something that they didn't know they wanted. And maybe it's because I just finished re-watching this during a foregoing storm. The storm is still going, by the way. The Witch, or as it's stylized, The Vivitch, though I'm gonna give you extra points if you call it The Vivitch, a New England folktale, is a very uncomfortable movie that tackles the themes of hypocritical belief, the rejection of God, and just so many children dying, like Jesus. All while throwing in some supernatural elements because you're all on your best behavior this year. It's also one of the more patient films I've seen in a while, and that's the thing I love about Robbie Rotten's horror outings. Even when it gets to the messed up stuff, the film loves to hang on shots that are way longer than they need to be. Eggers just wants you to swim in this sense of unease for a good long while, and it works favorably well. I honestly don't have anything else to say, it's just some really effective horror. Oh yeah, there was also this monologue in the middle done by a young Harvey Scrimshaw, and it's surprisingly really great. The shot composition, disturbing way it's delivered. I honestly can't imagine Eggers doing another transcendent monologue like that anytime soon. Hey, is the aspect ratio getting a little cramped for you as well, or is that just me?
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow! Hark! Hark! Triton! Hark!
Now, copyright can be a bit of a bitch sometimes. Not just that it can often be unfair when it happens to people who want to express their love for anything without knowing how, but I wish I could just sit here with you and watch The Lighthouse all the way through. It's honestly really difficult to describe what it even is. Is it a horror film? Is it mythological? Homoerotic? It's unclear, but whatever it is, it's gonna stick with you. By God, is it gonna stick with you. This whole film is just a puzzle box of surreal terrors where you don't even know if it's gonna greet you with a laugh or an axe. And when you least expect it, it explodes into one of the most haunting monologues you will ever hear. And you know what? I've been building it up for almost the entire video, so I'm just gonna say it. The fact that Willem Dafoe was not even nominated for any of the work that he did here should be listed as a war crime. He is phenomenal here, and the uncertainty of his sanity that further spreads to Robert Pattinson, who also did a really great job in this movie, made for a performance that is so terrifying that I don't even know how to describe it. This entire movie leaves you a changed human being by the end, and I live for it. That's probably the best way to describe Robert Eggers in a nutshell. Even with only 4 movies at his belt so far, the guy is already on his way to becoming one of the scariest directors working in the horror industry today. Making films that scare people even on a subconscious level is pretty hard to do nowadays, and the fact that Eggers is doing it this effectively and on such a large scale no less, needs to be commemorated. He is this generation's David Lynch, and I will have it no other way. Hats off to you, Rob. I can't wait to see what you do next. With that being said, I'm gonna go and clean up the egg on that door. Bad dreams, sisters. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.